Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you are new. My name is Jamie and today's video is going to be a really fun one. I'm going to be recapping all of the books that I have read from April to June. I haven't done a recap video in a couple of months, so I do have some updates to share with you. I was in a bit of a reading slump, so I don't have as many books as you might think for a 3-month period, but I definitely have some really standout reads that I'm so excited to share with you guys. So yeah, if you're interested, definitely keep watching, and if you're new, definitely subscribe, stick around, and yeah, let's get into it. Starting the month off, I actually started this in March and finished it in April. This is Half a Soul by Olivia Atwater. This is a cozy Regency fantasy, and you're following Dora, and Dora is this human girl who had half of her soul stolen by a fae when she was very young. And so she is now in her like late teenage years, I believe. Maybe she was like 17 or 18, I can't really recall, but she kind of has like half of the emotions that a normal human being has. She is very dry, very like, just her sense of humor really resonated with me. I found her to be a very endearing character to follow, but she kind of gets wrapped up with this mysterious guy whose name is escaping me. Elias Wilder. So Elias Wilder comes into the picture, and they kind of go on this adventure slash quest to get back the other half of Dora's soul. And of course, throughout this adventure, they fall for one another, and it's a really sweet romance. I gave this one 3 stars. It was a fast, easy read. I found the writing style to be very easy to fly through, but overall, there were some parts where I was laughing out loud and I found it really like endearing and like a sweet story and interesting, and there were other parts where I just kind of felt a little bored and I was ready for it to kind of wrap up. So overall, I did enjoy it. I would recommend it, but it was a 3-star for me, and I would be interested in reading more by Olivia Atwater, but I don't think I'm interested in continuing this specific series. Then I finally picked up Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez. So this is part of the Part of Your World series. So I'm reading this series a little bit backwards. I started with Just for the Summer, then I read Yours Truly, and then maybe I'll read Part of Your World. I'm not really sure. But in this story specifically, you are following the main character, Brianna and Josh. So Brianna is a nurse and Joshua is a doctor on the floor where Brianna works, and she and Josh kind of get a bit of a rough start. They really butt heads. Brianna just really doesn't like him from the jump, and poor Josh, he really does nothing wrong to earn this reputation that he has on the nurse's floor, but for some reason they all just hate him. It is a really sweet story. Joshua has social anxiety, so they really have a lot of that representation in this book, and they kind of write letters to each other, which I really like in a book. It was really sweet to read their letters to one another, and they just start to form this bond, this really special relationship that starts off as friends, well, starts off as enemies to friends, and then eventually lovers. And this is not a spoilers on the back of the book, but Joshua actually donates his kidney to Brianna's brother and kind of like saves his life. And it's just like the ultimate acts of service. And I don't know, I really enjoyed this book. I really enjoyed reading about Joshua's social anxiety. I found a lot of myself in Joshua, a lot of what he was experiencing and going through and thinking. And yeah, it was just really good one. I feel like this is so hyped up, and it is for good reason. I gave this one 4 stars. Then I am so excited. I finished the Caraval series, so this is finale. This is the 3rd and final book in the Caraval trilogy by Stephanie Garber. I'm not gonna go into too much detail because obviously this is the last book in a series, but I loved it. I love this series so much. This was kind of the first series that I got into when I became more interested in the fantasy genre. Caraval was kind of the first book that I read, and I just hold these characters so near and dear to my heart. I really enjoyed reading about Theodora's kind of journey in this, and Scarlett's journey in this, and just the ending, it was great. You know, I didn't really know what to expect, and I didn't really know what I wanted out of the ending, but I do think that the ending was a great way to wrap up the trilogy. And I'm so excited because you get a lot of Jacks throughout the last 2 books in this series, and I know that Once Upon a Broken Heart, that series is focusing on Jacks, so I'm really interested to jump into that series next. and kind of see more about him. But I really did love this series, and I gave this book 4 stars. I gotta take a sip of coffee for this one because I feel like I'm about to ruffle some feathers. Listen, I wanted to love this book. I went into this book, I have such an itch, sorry. I went into this book so excited to finally understand the hype, to finally be on the bandwagon. But I wanted to jump off the bandwagon and erase my memories and never revisit it. And that would be Powerless by Lauren Roberts. Now, hear me out, okay? Just hear me out. I went into this book with an open mind. Obviously, everyone loves it, so I went in with an open mind, like, yes, I'm gonna love this book, it's gonna be great, it's gonna be fantastic, there's gonna be enemies to lovers, knife it through, banter, blah, blah, blah. There is a lot of knife it throat, a lot of knives, a lot of throats. I just could not stand these characters. I am so sorry to say that, but I could not stand Kai, could not stand Peyton. So if you don't know, this is basically a fantasy romance book where Peyton is, what is she? What are they called? Ordinaries? She doesn't have powers, so she's powerless. And Kai, his job is to like eliminate anyone who doesn't have powers. Like he works for the king. I think his father's the king. When I tell you, I have blocked a lot of this out of my memory because I really just did not like it. But basically, they are destined to be enemies, right? You know, they're complete opposite ends of the spectrum. But Peyton ends up saving Kai's life and kind of gets swept up in this, and then she ends up entering this tournament to do something with other people with powers. So she's basically thrown into this tournament where everyone has powers and she doesn't, but no one is allowed to know that she doesn't. So she has to basically pretend that she can read minds. Sure. This was like Hunger Games from Temu. It just read very immature to me. It read very, very young. Very, just not great. I'm sorry. I don't want to say too much because I know it's her first novel. I know she's young and I know that everyone loves this book. So I'm probably going to get a little bit of flack for not liking it. But I have to be true to myself. And listen, I love banter. I love knife it throat. I love enemies to lovers when it is done right. But this book just felt like she was checking off a list of tropes on every single page. It felt like she was just throwing them in there just to throw them in there, like they didn't really have a purpose or a place, or like it didn't make sense to me. And yeah, the trials part of it was very lackluster. Could have done so much more with it. I just felt like the trials was really lacking, and it just felt like it was trying to be something that it wasn't. I gave this book 1 star. I will not be continuing the series. It feels good to get that off my chest. Please don't hate me. All right, and then I read an arc. So I read an arc of Mistakes We Never Made by Hannah Brown. Hannah Brown was The Bachelorette a few years ago, a bunch of years ago now. And I really liked her at the time. I really don't have much of an opinion on her these days, but I saw that she had her first ever novel that she wrote. It was on NetGalley, so I requested it and I got it. And basically it is this rom-com. I forget the main girl's name, but the main guy's name is Finn. And it's basically this rom-com where they were high school sweethearts, and they're kind of thrown back into this situation where they haven't seen each other for years, and they are invited to the main girl's best friend's wedding. So Finn is there. It's like, where is it, California? I don't know. They were all staying at this hotel. And basically the bride goes missing the day before the wedding, and Finn and the main girl, who again, I'm just gonna call her Hannah because she might as well have been. Finn and Hannah go on this journey to basically find the bride, bring her back, and save the wedding. And it was not great. It was not great. I felt like Hannah put so much of herself into the main character. I almost felt like I was just reading like Hannah Brown fan fiction. Like, I'm not kidding. Like, in the story, there is one of her friends is on a reality dating TV show. She said something about beast mode, and that was always Hannah's thing, and it was just like, it was a little too much. Like, I felt like I was just reading about Hannah, and I just didn't love it. The writing style was whatever. There were a couple of typos which just bugged me, and overall it was just very mid for me. I think I gave it 3 stars on Goodreads. I think looking back on it, I'd probably give it like 2.5. I really don't think that I would recommend it. But again, you know, take that with a grain of salt, because it's really not my favorite genre. I don't really love rom-coms. I don't really love like contemporary. I'm very much like, I love like historical or fantasy or really sad books, but just like a funny, witty little rom-com is not typically my cup of tea. But even with that being said, I've read a lot better. So that one was just very, very mid for me. So then at the end of April, I started a book that I ended up finishing in May. So I rented Tress of the Emerald Sea from my library. So now we're in May. Tress of the Emerald Sea is by Brandon Sanderson, and this was a book that has been on my radar for a long time. I have been very intimidated to get into Brandon Sanderson's works, but I've heard that Tress is a really good entry point, and I loved this book. This book was so good. So basically, this takes place in the Cosmere, which I have only read one Brandon Sanderson book, so I don't really understand what that means just yet. Basically, we are following Tress, and Tress lives in this kind of little like village slash town, and she has a love, and his name is Charlie, and Charlie is the king's son. And the king doesn't know that Charlie and Tress are kind of like, they like each other. They haven't really done anything, they just like each other. And so, long story short, Charlie gets taken. He gets captured by this like sea monster, basically. Stay with me here. I'm very bad at describing things, but I will get to my thought eventually. My thought is in here somewhere, and it will come out. So Tress basically decides, she's like, I have to go get Charlie back. And she accidentally ends up becoming a pirate. She ends up on a pirate ship, and she has to basically be on this ship and kind of be in disguise, because she pretends to be someone that she's not. And then she is trying to get this ship to find Charlie to bring him back home. And it was so endearing. I love the narration of this book. It's very like breaking the third wall, like speaking to you as the reader, which I personally really enjoy. I find it very endearing and like charming. Tress has an animal friend. She has a little buddy, and he talks on the ship, and he's so cute. I love being like hearing their conversations. I was gonna say being in his point of view. You're not in his point of view, but I love hearing their conversations. And it was just so much fun. I really took my time with this book. It took me a couple weeks to read it, because I really just was soaking in every word. I felt like just the writing style was so fun and had me like laughing out loud, and it had me like getting like a little teary, and it was just like really a beautiful story of like self-discovery, love, adventure, and it was just so much fun. I gave it 4 stars. Then, oh my god, I gotta take another sip of coffee for this one, but for a good reason. So then I continued the Chestnut Springs series with Heartless. I love this book so much. I cannot get over it. Okay, so this is the second book in the Chestnut Springs series, which I'm sure that you've read. You know, everyone has read this series. I am very behind, but after reading Flawless, which was the first book, I was like, meh. Like, I didn't really love it, didn't hate it, but it was just very like, meh. After reading Heartless, I'm so glad that I continued. I saw someone's TikTok where she was talking about Heartless, and I was like, okay, you convinced me. You convinced me to continue this series, and I'm so happy that I did, because I think I found my new favorite trope, which is single dad. Oh my god, so good. Okay, so this story follows Cade Eaton, and he's one of the brothers in the Eaton family. They all live on the ranch. What is the ranch called? I forgot what it's called. In Chestnut Springs. Anywho, that's not important. What's important is he is a single dad with the cutest son. Oh my god, so freaking adorable. What was the son's name? Luke? maybe. And we're following Cade, and then we're following Willa. And Willa is the best friend of Summer, who is engaged to Cade's brother. So we followed Summer and Rhett in the first book, so now we're following Cade and Willa, so Rhett's brother and Summer's best friend. And Willa is Cade's nanny for the summer, and oh my god, Cade Eaton, the man that you are, he is so good. He is so grumpy and like gruff and just like mad. And typically I am not a grumpy sunshine kind of person, because it's usually done in a very like cheesy, cringy kind of way, in my opinion. This one had me swooning. He was just written so perfectly, like such a perfect man. And yeah, you're just following them throughout the summer. You're watching Cade's son and Willa form this beautiful bond, and it was just so sweet to see. And Willa is just such a firecracker. She had me cracking up, and she is just such like the polar opposite of Cade. She's definitely like more of like the sunshine, bubbly, like just go with the flow, and Cade is very like nyeh, nyeh, nyeh. But it was so good. It was so good. I gave it 5 stars. I want to read it again. I am now reading Powerless, which is the next book in the series. I'm not done with it yet, but I think it's gonna be really hard to top Cade Eaton, because that man, Okay, so then, so I started that in April, ended it in May. It took me more than a month to read that book. I was in such a slump. And then starting on May 14th and finished on June 4th, I read Heartless Hunter, which I again took out from my library, so I don't have the physical copy. Look at me using my library card. Who is she? So I read Heartless Hunter by Kristen Ciccarelli. And this is a book that has been going around. I feel like it's been getting so much hype on Book Talk, BookTube. Like, I've been seeing it absolutely everywhere. So I put in a request for my library, and it finally came in, and woohoo! I love this book so much. This book was so good. Okay, so you're following a witch and a witch hunter whose names, again, just completely escape me. Let's see, what were their names? Rune is the witch, and Gideon Sharp is the witch hunter. So Rune is a witch, and she is basically mourning the death of her grandmother, and her grandmother was a witch, and Rune didn't know that she was a witch until her grandmother passed away, so she wasn't really able to teach her anything about being a witch. But Rune's best friends, whose names are escaping me, Alex is a guy, and then what was the girl? I hate it. I hate how it's so difficult for me to remember names. But her 2 best friends basically know that she's a witch, and they are trying to help her because she is the Crimson Moth, and that means that she is trying to save witches from getting like executed. So basically Gideon Sharp is a witch hunter, and his sole purpose in life is to execute witches, because if you're a witch in this world, that is the worst thing. Like, witches cannot exist because they used to really like rule and like were very powerful, and they don't want it to go back to that. So they're basically just told, like, if you're a witch, you're dead. You're done. You're executed. So the story starts off where Rune's grandmother's best friend is captured, and she's a witch. And basically Rune has to go on this like journey to try and save her grandmother's best friend, because she wants to, you know, she doesn't want her grandmother to be disappointed with her in death, whatever. So basically she pretends to be like this like bubbly, like ditzy socialite to kind of get in with the crowd, to kind of like get the gossip and hear what's going on. And Gideon is pretending to court her because he's suspicious that she is a witch, and she is suspicious that he captured her grandmother's son. So basically they're both pretending to be something that they're not, but then they end up falling for each other, and it was just so good. So good. I am not gonna say anymore, because when I like a book so much, all I can say is like, you just have to read it, and I am not doing it any justice, but it was so good. The ending was amazing. I didn't see that twist coming at the end, and I cannot wait for book 2, which probably is not coming out for a very long time. So then, oh, I gave that 5 stars. 5 stars. So then I read my third 5-star read of June. June was such a good month for not quantity, but quality. I read 6 Scorched Roses by Carissa Broadbent. So this is the like 1.5 of the Crowns on Nyaxia series. So this is the novella between books 1 and 2. It doesn't follow the same characters from book 1. It's a completely different main character. But this book was so good. I gave it 5 stars, like I said. My only complaint was that it was not long enough. I wish that we got a full-length novel on these characters, whose names, again, couldn't tell ya. Lilith and Vale. So Lilith, basically her sister is deteriorating. Like, her sister is very sick, and she needs to create this medicine to cure her sister, and she needs the blood of a vampire, and she ends up stumbling across Vale, who is a vampire, and she basically makes this deal with him. She's like, I will give you 6 roses if you give me your blood. So she has to visit him 6 times over the next like few months, and they just form this amazing bond, this amazing romance. Like, I'm telling you, like, this novella was so good. I just wish that it was longer. I wish we got a full-length novel because I love Vale so much, and I was just like kicking and screaming. And yeah, the ending was perfect, and I really hoped like in the future Carissa gives us a full-length novel on the continuation of these 2 stories because it was so beautiful. 5 stars. And then I finally read Never by Jessa Hastings, which I tabbed, which is always such a good sign. So this novel is a Peter Pan reimagining. So I personally, like, I knew the gist of Peter Pan. Like, I obviously saw it when I was like a kid, but I didn't really know like too much about it. And I know that Jessa said that this was supposed to be very true to like the original Peter Pan, which is not the romanticized version of Peter Pan. And for that, I think that she did a great job. I will say, like, I wish that I at least like read a little bit of the original Peter Pan that she was trying to emulate in this book, but since she wasn't trying to do the romanticized version, I will say that spot on, because I hate Peter Pan. This book made me hate Peter Pan. So in this book, you're following Daphne. So Daphne is Wendy's granddaughter. So Wendy, obviously, it's Peter Pan and Wendy, and, you know, she's telling Daphne, like, oh, when you become a certain age, like, Peter Pan is going to come to your window and you're going to go to Neverland and it's going to be amazing and beautiful and magical. And Daphne's like, she's like, I'm almost 18 years old. Where is this man? And one night he does come to her window and she's like, oh my God, finally my destiny. So she goes with him to Neverland. And I don't want to say too much because I went into this pretty blind, and I'm really happy that I did. But I will just say that Peter Pan is not who you think he's going to be in this book. He's like a man, and he is a man that acts like a boy. And she is basically like rescued by someone that you're not supposed to like. But I am obsessed. Like, all of the like pink and orange tabs, it's all about this one guy. And I'm sure you can probably assume, if you know the Peter Pan story, you can assume at least like what family lineage this guy is part of. But it was so much fun to read. It's so magical. Like, I understand now why people are so obsessed with Jessa's writing style, because it is so flowery and beautiful, and there were so many amazing whimsical quotes in this that just had me like kind of like gasping, because I was like, that she just said that so beautifully, and it in such a way that she didn't have to, but it just made it like 10 times better. And as soon as I finished reading this, I ordered Magnolia Parks because I was like, I need more Jessa Hastings in my life. But yeah, the ending of this, I will say, really made me sad. Really made me sad. And I don't know when the next book is slated to be released, but I need it like yesterday because I need the character that I love. I need him to get redemption. I need Daphne to undo something that she did, and I need Peter to just go away. But I gave it 4 stars because I absolutely loved it. And this was a book, like, you know I'm loving a book when I am on the train going to work and I brought my annotation supplies with me because I was like, I need to finish this book. Like, I cannot go another day without reading this book and finishing this book. And I annotated this on a moving train during rush hour in the morning. So that's how you know. That's how you know I loved it. And then I will just leave it at that because I am in the middle of a few books right now, but I feel like I'll save those for the next wrap up. But I feel like I had a really good few months, not quantity wise, but quality wise. I feel like I read some really, really great reads, and I'm just excited to keep chugging through my physical TBR, which if you watched my July TBR video, you know that I filmed my entire physical TBR, which that video is coming after this one. And let's just say that I need to go on a book buying ban. I need to use my library more. I need to seek Jesus. I need to read like 10 books a day. Like, I need to get going on this physical TBR. But thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that you've had a great few months of reading. Let me know what your favorite read was for the past like few months down below, if you want to give me 1 book a month or whatever you want to tell me. I would love to hear it down below. If you've read any of these books, let me know your thoughts. Please don't hate me about Powerless. Please, 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 please. And I will see you guys in my next video very soon. Bye.